Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historic shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area, and we recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda? Councillors Shortreed and Richards.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Richards, be it resolved the May 1st, 2025 agenda be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none. A couple of remarks. I did want to acknowledge that this is Volunteer Appreciation Week. And just comment on the fact that I truly believe that we have an absolutely wonderful core of volunteers here. It's becoming more and more challenging to get volunteers these days, and we've got some really solid working committees, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done. And I look forward to seeing them all at our fete that we're having on Saturday. I also want to acknowledge that today is an acknowledgement of first responders. And I wanted to fully acknowledge and thank all of our first responders for the work that they do. I know that they train hard, they're very committed, and they do an awful lot to save life and property. And I can speak to that from a personal perspective. I've had 2 house fires and both of my homes have been saved, and I've also been saved by a paramedic chief. And so I truly appreciate the work that all of you do. I look forward to continued training and encouragement of all of our first responders. I would also encourage all of members of the public to sometime today to visit their paramedic offices, the police detachment, the fire halls in all of your municipalities, because they're all there waiting to visit the public or visit with the public and allow kids to check out the fire trucks. And so take that opportunity. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of April the 14th and March the 20th? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Barry.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Barry, be it resolved that the March 20th, 2025 public and April 17th, 2025 regular meeting minutes be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. We have no public meetings or delegations or presentations today. Did anyone wish to comment on the consent agenda or have an item pulled from the consent agenda? Could I have then a mover and a seconder to adopt the consent agenda? Councillor Richards and Barry.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Barry, be it resolved items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and acted in one motion. Each matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting, and the council has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various staff reports and proposed recommendations, and further council approve and adopt the May 1st, 2025 consent agenda and recommendations contained in the staff report and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions.
All in favor? That's carried. So we have nothing under building and bylaw, nothing under parks, recreation and trails. We do have a report under environment. Good morning, Ms. Murray. So I see we have under your department the minutes of March the 4th. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight from that meeting, or our counselor in charge? We'll just ask if Ms. Murray has anything to say first. Any comments?
I will defer to Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks very much. We've had some really productive meetings. The last few meetings we have met It's been a challenge to get folks together in the same room, so we've not had as many meetings as we have wanted to have, but they have been productive. On this set of minutes, I would highlight our social media calendar for the diversion of organic waste. There was some great brainstorming that went into putting together a full year's worth of public information and education on how to keep organic waste out of our landfills. And that has been sent to staff who have happily received it. And in accordance with council's will of a couple of meetings ago, or a number of meetings ago, we'll be integrating that into the general calendar going forward on social media. So that's really good news. The one resolution that I'd like to bring to council's attention is with regards to the dark sky policy. Council will recall this has been on the agenda on and off for a number of years now. There was some legislative changes that came through, I think, 2 years ago, and Sean gave us an update on that. But in the intervening while, more interest has come from members of the public on dark skies. And we were tasked at the Environment and Stewardship Committee to put a little bit more thinking in it, do a little bit more research, which we've done. We've consulted with Sean on whether there may be different avenues for exploring a dark sky policy of some kind, given the current legislative environment. And he said there are potentially a couple of openings there. So based on our homework, which we very quickly reviewed in the minutes, and our conversations with Mr. O'Callaghan, we are recommending to council that we take another look at this formally to see if there's something that we can do to strengthen our dark sky policies across the town.
We being the committee, you mean?
The committee, through the minutes, have resolved to request council to further investigate dark sky policies with consideration to measures to preserve dark skies in the township of Algonquin Highlands.
Okay, I'm still not clear about who is going to be doing that research. Are you asking staff to do the research, or does the committee want to do the research?
We have already done quite a bit of research on what exists, what different kinds of dark sky policies are currently in effect in Ontario, in rural areas, in areas close to parks, in reserve spaces. We did that. We passed it along to staff. At this stage, it's our belief that the next phase of homework would naturally be the legislative normative framework, which is more of a staff point of expertise than a general committee member point of expertise. So that's why we're bringing it back to council for staff's furtherance.
Okay, I did see in the minutes, and I can't just quickly spot it right now, but that there was a comment about a bylaw for dark skies, and you understand that that's not something that we could look into, but we're talking about a policy as opposed to.
Well, but that's the thing, that's exactly right. That's why we would like staff to outline, if it can't be a bylaw in the way that we were thinking before, could the other examples that we pulled from other areas in Ontario possibly apply in terms of example structure for us? Yeah.
Did I see that there was a suggestion that we do some form of survey with respect to this?
There was that suggestion a couple of years ago, in fact, when the dark sky policy question was last there. And if council is willing to continue down this avenue, we would be very happy within the committee to do some brainstorming about what that survey could look like, if that's appropriate.
Comments? We'll go to Madam CAO first.
Just a couple of comments, actually, and a couple of questions really is, would it be possible for the committee to provide the research that's been done so that we can understand that the policies that were investigated and researched, whether or not they were passed before the legislation came into play or after? Because I think that would make a difference on enforcement.
Yep, absolutely.
And as well, the survey, I believe, was talked about by council this year at budget time, I believe it was. And it was talked about doing a survey.
Simply to, it can be as simple as, how important are dark skies or having a dark sky policy to residents. Did I see your hand up, Councillor Berry? Any other comments or thoughts on how to proceed? Well, if nobody has anything to say, I guess, yeah, go ahead and have the committee. I understand did you have to cancel a committee meeting yesterday? No quorum?
Yeah, insufficient numbers indeed.
Okay, well, I think that it would be an idea for you to, well, hopefully you will provide the research that you've done to staff, as well as do some brainstorming as quickly as possible on what you might see being appropriate for a survey. You might do that in conjunction with staff.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we'll go from there, see what we hear from the public.
Yes, thank you.
I also see that there was some comment about looking into municipal facilities and looking at the lighting at municipal facilities. I know that we've done quite a bit of work here at the Stanhope site on reducing the light strength of the lights here. I still have some concern about security and, how we're going to maintain security. Did you have any thoughts on that comment?
I know that one of the things that has been talked about by council previously was the challenge we have had around the lights at the tennis courts, I believe, coming on at odd hours of the day or night. And that because they're on a timer, and sometimes if the power goes out, that gets offset. So I know we've worked at making sure those timers remain appropriate. And anytime that I know just in the recent years, anytime we do renovations or changes, the lighting is changed, the outside lighting has changed to LED. And we've worked at, having the downward facing lights as well. So I guess I need direction from council on what further items council would like us to investigate.
So was there any discussion about details about that, or just some general?
There wasn't in that meeting, no. We could consider, I'm just thinking out loud here, but perhaps even as part of the survey, asking for examples within the township where the facilities are considered to be too bright, just to know what those hotspots might be.
I'm not sure that I would agree with that, doing that. I'd rather keep it more general than, if there's specific things that the committee would like to recommend that we do for our facilities, that's fine. To bring them back to us and staff can consider those. Otherwise, I'd rather see it remain rather general in relation to, I think that's more of a concern on the lakes than anywhere. We'll look to hearing back. Was there, on that, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve or adopt the minutes of March the 4th? Councillor Berry, Councillor Shortreed, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Berry, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that the March 4th, 2025 Environment and Stewardship Committee meeting minutes be received for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Melissa. That was easy. Next up, Public Works. Morning, Mr. Thorne.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Today, I'll be presenting to you my surface treatment results. Excuse me, as the report will show, this is a annual project that we do with the county. We do it in tandem with them, and Minden joined on this year, which was awesome. Unfortunately, this year we were over budget on the project, so I've brought to council's attention two options to choose from. Additional information I would like to add, and that wasn't put in the report that I got when I got back from my training, was I did speak with our finance department, and should council choose to move forward with the tender as it is and with the increased costs, the finance department has recommended that any project that was under budget throughout the year could cover the overage of this project. And then at the end of the year, we would also sit down and take a look at anything that was under budget could go towards this cost. And then at that time, cover it, the remaining with a reserve.
Yeah, I would have a concern with not proceeding with the project because I think if we, first of all, if we re-tendered it, we would be re-tendering it on our own, because I understand it was a shared project, and I think the county, I know, has decided to proceed. So we'd be possibly looking at higher costs. If we waited till next year, we'd be looking at higher costs. And, you know, I would foresee that next year the costs are going to be higher. So it would be my recommendation to proceed and look for savings from other projects, but I would also look to council for their comments. Councillor Shortreed.
I fully agree. I don't think we're gonna get it cheaper next year. I don't think that doing it on our own is gonna get it cheaper, and it needs to be done.
Other comments? Okay, then I guess I would be looking for a mover and a seconder to proceed with the project. I guess that would be option number one. Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, council receives Public Works Report PW 925 regarding the road surface treatment tender results for information, and that council selects option one and directs staff to proceed accordingly. And further, council hereby authorizes the CAO to sign the required agreements.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Next up was fire services. Welcome back, chief.
I'm glad to be back. It's great. Mayor and council,
So you have some information about some additional funds on a grant?
yes, the fire service is receiving additional funding from the fire protection grant that we applied for last year, in the amount of $361.73. The agreement for the transfer payment will follow up in the bylaw section of this. All the items that we already had approved last time have been put in place with the fire service, for the new washer, with our various gloves and Nomex hoods. Chris Shelley did a wonderful job on his way, making sure all that funding was directly or appropriately directed when it came in. So that was nice to see.
Any questions or comments on that? So we don't have a resolution at this point? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You too. So next up is finance. And we all received an email from the treasurer with respect to a slight change in the bottom line for our budget. Did you have any comment that you wanted to make about that?
Not really. I mean, council got the email from the treasurer, who unfortunately had a previous appointment today. So we do have to adopt a new bylaw there was an error. And it fortunately, it was an in and out. So it doesn't necessarily affect the bottom line, but because we quote those numbers in the bylaw, we do have to adopt a new bylaw.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, we'll see that under the bylaw section. Nothing under communications. So next up is admin business, and the first item is the Dorset Museum update and minutes. Anybody want to speak to that? Councillor Shortreed?
Yeah, the committee is continuing on with the gazebo project. They like to see the first phase done this year, the slab put in the ground. They have the funds ready. Since the college isn't available to next year, they would like to get everything in place this year. So next year when the college is ready, they're good to go. So they're at the point now where they are hopefully working with staff to continue on with the slab and get that put in this year.
So I understand that there still needs to be some work done with respect to marking out the exact location of where the pad would go.
Correct. So I think that's the next step with staff is to mark out where it's going to be on the actual property, and then they can carry on from there.
Do we need a resolution with respect to this if they want to go ahead with putting the pad in this year?
And I'm sorry, I'm not drawing out of my memory at the moment, so I defer to Councillor Shortreed on whether or not the cost for the slab was included in the budget this year.
No, that's the fundraising. They have the money already to pay for it.
So the Friends of the Dorset Museum have
Yes.
raised the funds for it. But I'm just kind of thinking that we would have to approve for that to proceed.
I would recommend that council does do that, yes.
Okay, so can I then have a mover and a seconder for us to proceed with or approve the proceeding with the laying the foundation and working with staff on the exact location of that? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu, did you have a comment?
A question actually. So is it exactly what you just said? Is it to lay the foundation or to work on the precise location? I
Both.
think I'd be more interested in seeing that mapped out on a sketch first. So if it's both, that's great.
Okay, well, that to me, in my mind, defers our passing a resolution at this point. Comment?
The resolution then would have to direct staff to work on the layout to bring back for council's consideration.
So thoughts? I see a wrinkled brow.
I could be wrong, but my memory serves that there was something to do with the property line and so that it had to be changed. I would rather approve the project in principle with those considerations in mind. I thought that we had already received some sort of a drawing that just needed to be tweaked to fit within the property line, but I could be wrong.
A little clarity, nodding heads, don't say anything to the public. Pardon me?
Make sure it's-
Sean, I didn't expect you to be able to speak to this.
Oh, well, good morning, Mayor and Council. So just with respect to the location, there was some concerns with it being too close to a property line, which I think have since been resolved. So with any construction project, it's typical, we would see a site plan first and approve that before we would issue any sort of building permit. So if it's council's wish that some sort of site plan be prepared, staff can work with the committee to have that and bring that back to council. And I think that can be a rather quick turnaround for that.
Okay, so that sounds like the direction we should move in to bring back a site plan, and I think the committee just really wants to be able to move forward with it, and whatever's required to do that is good with them. So could you maybe tell us what you might have for a resolution there before we? Okay. Councillor Shortreed.
While that's being written, the committee just wanted to thank staff for the removal of waste that they had collected up after cleaning out some areas of the museum.
Oh, so that did take place.
It did. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure our CAO will pass that on.
Sure she will.
Go ahead.
Be it resolved that council receives the March 2025 Dorset Museum Committee meeting minutes. And that council directs staff to proceed with drafting a site plan for the location of the gazebo and be brought be brought back to council for review and approval.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Counselor Barry, Counselor Shortreed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next is a report on the attendance at an aspiring CAO workshop.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and
Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This report just highlights a workshop that I attended for aspiring CAO workshops. It was really, really good, and I want to thank council for the opportunity to attend it. There was about 12 people there, ranging from large to small municipalities. We discussed the things that were highlighted. We had 2 CAOs from 2 municipalities speak for approximately an hour on their path, how they got there, their CAO strategies, what they've done for their municipalities. There was a recruiter that talked about what councils look for when they're recruiting CAOs, information provided that when you're being interviewed, that you're also interviewing that council for that position. And we did an elevator pitch. So it was really good. It was enjoyed the workshop.
That that the applicants would be interviewing council?
When you're being interviewed by council, there are questions that they recommend and things that you ask that council. So
To see if it
it's a
fits for you
yeah,
as well.
two-sided interview, really.
Well, I guess
It
as is
was
the
really
case with
good.
all interviews like that.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
Any questions on that? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report? Counselor Shortreed and Barry?
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved, council received the clerk report CO 425 in accordance with the township's conference policy regarding staff attendance at aspiring CAO workshop for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a report on spring cleanup and maintenance at cemeteries. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report before Council today is just seeking some approval. Our cemeteries have a lot of, they have gathered some things that are not in accordance with our bylaw. And we absolutely value the importance and the significance of the items. Unfortunately, during the weather that we get, specifically the winters, the spring, there are things that are landing there that are glass and they end up broken, and with the winds, it ends up moving things across the cemetery, and our staff do an absolutely amazing job attempting to get things back to where they go. But it's time that I think we have to just pull some things out of the cemetery so those things don't continue to happen. So what staff's suggesting to council is that we start advertising in the spring and fall so that families have the opportunity to remove the items before they become damaged or misplaced throughout the cemetery. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
I quite truthfully, I'm wondering about whether or not we should have some form of policy, and I don't know quite how it would work, but having had some of this discussion at the Green Burial meeting, I was rather concerned at the number of glass items and broken glass, that really bothered me. I can see it as being a risk and a hazard, and I guess I was wondering what council thought about a possible policy, or if we should be doing anything about that or not. Councillor Shortreed and Deputy Mayor Dayu, then Councillor Barry.
In all honesty, I never even thought of this. I don't think people actually think of this at all. I think they're thinking of going to their gravesite and visiting and leaving something, but not what happens after. But I think policy, I think advertising, just to bring the awareness, because I don't think people are aware.
Well, it never occurred to me. I understand it now. I mean, I really do understand it, but people bringing like a bottle of Crown Royal, literally, that's, or cigars, or there, different items of that that could, I don't know, all kinds of things could happen, that kind of concern me. And, you know, it might be an idea to have some education with respect to what's appropriate and what the concerns are. So I'm awfully sorry about that. Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Yeah, and I think the education piece is a great idea, and I'm really happy to support that. It sounds like there is already a bylaw that does specify what you can and cannot bring. And so all that we would be doing is educating folks on that bylaw. I'm not sure that, do you think another policy would be required?
Go
If
ahead.
I may, through you, Mayor, all the items are actually prohibited in accordance with our bylaw. This is more or less a part of the education piece, and so council is aware that we will receive support to remove the items. So, and of course, with enough notice, so people have the opportunity to come collect the items. So I don't think a further policy is required because it is identified in our.
Okay, no, I didn't realize that it was detailed in the bylaw. We'll
Yeah.
go to Councillor Barry and then back to yourself.
Yeah, I support the idea. I know everyone's probably dealing with the spring cleanup right now and how things migrate on your own properties. I guess my thing is, just given the timing and some people are visiting grave sites, you know, maybe during the summer months and they're not able to come and retrieve those things. So I don't know how logistically that can be done. Would they just be retrieved and discarded? Would they be retrieved? Would there be an opportunity for people to go and get something, and then would there be a spot where, I don't know, like a lost and found or that type of thing? That's just my thought. I don't know. Like,
Depends on what the item is, really.
I know, I guess it's challenging depending on what the item is, and like I didn't know anything about the crown. Like that's a little,
Well, that's
everybody
just an
lost that all
example.
of a
You
sudden.
know, I just thought, wow, it.
But yeah, I guess
Surprising that
like
somebody didn't just take
if
the bottle.
if the you know, if the timeline could happen, I think, I don't know, I know staff wants to get in there and clean up. And how does that work with cottagers that are maybe not coming up until the long weekend? I know more and more cottagers are coming up more often, but just logistics, I guess, is my question.
Go ahead, Sarah.
If I may, through you, Mayor, I think what we would like to do is provide a small space to allow people to, if we've picked something up, we've put it there for a time period and then it's collected. Similar to a lost and found, but it would be a designated contained space. I know staff, others, maintenance staff have recommended like kind of like a deck box, something that would secure the items, hold them, and then at the end of the season, if they're not collected, then yeah, we certainly do not want to discard those items because we know that they have significant value to the family, but we just want to make sure that they are either returned or that they're not broken across the cemetery.
Any other comments? Okay, sounds like education is the way to go. Could you read what you have for a resolution?
Be it resolved, council receives Deputy Clerk Report DC 1125 for information regarding cemetery grounds annual spring and fall maintenance, and council directs staff to remove the items that are in contravention of bylaw 2024-64 from township cemeteries, and further council directs staff to implement an annual notification process for maintenance and removal of items in township cemeteries.
I have a mover, seconder. Councillor Richards, Councillor Shortreed. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Next up is planning. So your first item is a proposed shore road allowance closing on Rand Lake.
Thank you. Yes, this is an application we've received for the Shore Road allowance in front of this property. It was pulled from the consent agenda just because it is a little unique. The situation was construction work started without a permit. Staff attended the site and a stop work order was issued. They did cease construction and were advised to get a survey, which revealed that the work was being completed on a portion of the Shore Road allowance. And also that the work does not comply with the zoning bylaws. So they will require a minor variance, but in order to obtain a minor variance, they first need to close the Shore Road allowance. So that's what's triggered this application before council today. So staff are recommending approval of the proposal in principle.
Any questions on that? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve it? Councillors Richards and Barry.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Barry. Be resolved, council receives planning report PL 4425 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 12, concession A, geographic township of Sherburne, Wren Lake, and council approves in principle application OSRA 725 made to stop and close the said shoreline road allowance, and the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is your planning department update. Anything that you want to highlight there?
Nothing to highlight, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions with respect to the planning update? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve the update? Councillors Short Reed and Richards.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, council receives planning report PL 4525 regarding monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. And finally, under planning, oh no, not finally. We have your report on housing development. Want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. It was my understanding council had some questions about a recent proposal that staff have been working with Habitat for Humanity on a proposed housing project on a municipally owned piece of property. And we're just looking for an update on that. So the proposed scale of development would require significant on-site servicing, which right now policies in the official plan for both the county and the township, as well as our zoning bylaw, would not permit. But there were discussions of communal servicing. So that's something that the county is going to be bringing a report to county council on later this summer, I believe. So unfortunately, we can't really move forward with that project until some sort of direction or resolution's been made at the county. The county has established a municipal services corporation, which is a requirement of the communal servicing aspect. But that corporation right now is formed primarily to deal with the municipal accommodation tax that's received through the short-term rental licensing. So it's not in place right now to deal with communal servicing, but that's a discussion that's going to be taking place, is my understanding, at county council this summer. So unfortunately, right now we are on hold until that direction or discussion at least has taken place. So we'll certainly report back to council once we have more information on that.
I know that there have been a number of members of council that have just sort of said, like, where are we at with, like, what can we or are we doing about housing? And I mean, it really is a very big challenge for us here. I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can do in the form of maybe drafting, working on some draft policies, because I'm assuming that we would have to have our own municipal corporation at some point in time if we were to do a development like this, as well as communal servicing or for communal servicing. Is there anything we can do in advance in preparation for it, just to be kind of ready, or any thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, not at this time. I think it does live at the county level. The corporations, I don't believe we would have to establish one locally. It would live at the county. So, I mean, our staff is researching the communal servicing. So once this corporation is established to deal with that, we'll be able to take steps at a municipal level to support this kind of development. I think it's important, though, that the council realize we are doing a lot to support, affordable housing development within the local level. I mean, with council's approval of the most recent zoning bylaw, allowing a secondary dwelling on most properties, save and except for the waterfront area. That's something we're starting to see more interest in and getting more calls about. So, with being a large rural municipality, there are limited options as far as dense or higher density development that could be permitted. So staff and council are are certainly doing what we can to encourage development in the area.
I know one of the things that I was very disappointed to hear at the housing workshop that we had earlier this year was the fact that it sounds like approvals for communal servicing are much quicker for developers than they are for municipal corporations. And I find that very, very hard to accept. But far be it from us to be able to say what upper levels of government can do. Councillor Richards.
On the, when we looked at the properties that we were considering, we had discussed two of them being sold so that maybe a private developer could develop housing on them. I'm just wondering where we are with those two properties, like as an individual house, not as like a full
You're
development.
talking about the two properties that are in the Maple Lake Estates? The
Yeah.
two residential properties?
Yeah, yeah. Just wondering if we've moved forward on putting those up for sale or.
Any comment on that?
I do know that that was discussed. I don't believe there's any formal direction.
Yeah, I
given.
don't recall there being any formal direction about
Certainly,
it.
if that's the direction council wants to go, we can start that.
So you're suggesting we simply advertise them for sale?
Yeah, I mean, somebody may privately scoop them up quick and build, and we have two more houses.
Thoughts from members of council on that? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Yeah, the memory is slowly percolating back up to the top on that indeed. I think before we hit the go button on a sale, I think I'd like to reflect a bit more on how we might provide that space either through sale or donation or whatever, to provide the kind of housing that fills the housing gap that we have in our community, which is more of, young families trying to set up for the first time, or folks coming in looking for work, rather than having another, second home, large cottage type structure built. If this is one of the ways that we can help to fill the gap, I'd like to reflect more on how we might support filling that gap.
Councillor Richards?
I definitely can appreciate that, but we had that discussion when we had the discussion, and we decided that because they are in Maple Estates with private road access, that it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for that level of housing. But it doesn't mean that somebody, in working class couldn't afford to purchase it themselves and do so. But I think that's something that would be beyond our control. We don't necessarily get to decide who purchases land. Whereas the other properties that we discussed for habitat are appropriate for donation to build that housing. So, I mean, I'm happy to bring it back again and have the discussion again, but we did have that discussion.
My concern about those particular properties is that, well, first of all, Habitat was not particularly interested in them. And I think partially because if you're talking about affordable or attainable housing, they're not near any services whatsoever, which is problematic, for somebody who's got some challenges to deal with. And, even the property that we landed on is not really, I mean, at least it's on more of a major transportation route and closer to some servicing, but, those two lots in particular are not. So I guess we need to decide, do we want to talk about this further? Or do we want to, advertise them for sale, see what we get? Yeah, I guess we'd have to have them, have they been appraised, or would we have to have an appraisal for them?
They have not been appraised, no.
We'd have to move forward with an appraisal. Sean and then Councillor Barry.
Yes, so there is a policy in place right now whenever the township disposes of municipal lands. So one of the options is an appraisal, or I think we can negotiate directly with property owners or a real estate agent. But yeah, we can certainly bring that policy back and options for council consideration.
Okay, that'd be good. Councillor Barry?
I sort of am still in support of if we're going to use this property, that it be used for filling the housing gap and not just having a new residence or a large cottage. I mean, we could do that for multiple reasons, but I'm more interested in sort of staying the course and seeing if there is work that can be done in the future in regards to communal servicing and that type of thing. Um,
Those are two single residential lots. Can you recall where they are located?
Vaguely.
They're not suited for communal servicing. They're really not suited for attainable housing. I guess I'm trying to wonder, what do you mean by filling the gap? And how do you see those particular lots doing that?
I guess in truth, it would be nice to see the lots again. It's been a while since we've had the discussion. I think I'm maybe thinking of a different lot. Um, uh,
Oh, well, okay, Sean is suggesting that he bring a report back to
Sure,
us on,
yeah.
on what our disposal policy is. We can talk about this again. That hopefully that would include, something showing the location of the lots and the size of them, which, I know that Councillor Barry tends to be a little bit more visual about things, and you can see that it's not necessarily land that's suited for, affordable housing. I mean, it could be, but I'm kind of going by the example of Habitat for Humanity that did not seem interested or in that particular property. Sean?
I have the list of properties, so that'll be easy for staff to bring back to the next council meeting. I'll bring them all, along with the policy about, disposing of municipal lands.
And that'll foster a housing discussion and maybe we'll, come out with some direction, more clear direction.
Mhm.
That sound reasonable? Okay, so could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the report on housing development? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives planning report PL 4625 regarding housing development for information, and that Council directs staff to bring back a report addressing the disposal of township-owned property for further discussion.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally is the Committee of Adjustment minutes from March the 28th. And I would thank Councillor Richards for chairing that meeting in my absence. Any comments or questions? Could I then have a mover and a seconder then to receive them? Councillor Barry, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Barry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, the March 28th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes be received for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is the list of external board meetings. Anything on community partnership or health hub?
Nothing yet, but the meeting is in 2 weeks. So we'll hear something soon.
So those meetings are combined, they're not separate
We
meetings.
usually do them
There's-
back to back. We start with one and then we carry on to the other. People leave and people come. And we have it. back to
Okay.
back.
Seems quite a lengthy period of time without any information coming to us about, in particular, about the health hub and any concerns that they.
Unfortunately, the NP is on maternity leave, so everything it's not up in the air, but they've had a bunch of MPs doing locum either by Zoom or in office, so it's like nothing solid right now just because of the maternity leave. They're just operating the best they can to get through until the mat leave's over.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Richards, anything on the Upper Trent Water Management or Muskoka Watershed?
Nothing on the Upper Trent. Although maybe there might be an update coming soon. Nothing on the Muskoka watershed since the last update.
Okay, thank you. On the detachment board, I think we're having a meeting next week. So I'd be able to give you some more information. I think I told you at our last meeting that we will be getting a new detachment commander who won't be, I don't think she's going to be joining us until June. The one thing that I did really like to hear was that she's looking at housing and committing to a number of years here in Halliburton, and I think that that would really go a long way to stabilizing things. That's been quite a bit of a boogaboo with a lot of people, that there's been such a turnover in detachment commanders. Anything on the library board?
No, nothing on the library board or community safety and well-being or the Muskog River watershed.
Okay, under county council, there's the primary thing that we did receive at our last meeting was a presentation by Kawartha Lakes on social services and human services. The one member from the city of Kawartha Lakes, Janine, and I forget Janine's last name. Do you remember? Who has been working with the city for like 25 years, 30 years, and she's just done an absolutely fabulous job. And I just, she's retiring, and I just wanted to comment that we really, truly appreciate the work that she's done on our behalf, and wish her well. I know that Deputy Mayor Dayu has asked for some information to be included on our agenda for information, for council's information. Was there anything that you wish to speak to on that?
Just to draw council's attention to it, it's a very interesting report, in particular, the first 3 or 4 pages, which provides an extraordinary snapshot into the types of changes that are happening in our community, both in terms of our demographics, our quickly changing demographics, in terms of what services are currently available for people in need, both in social services and in housing, and what some of the apparent needs are, and how those needs are changing over the years in terms of the age range of folks who are looking for additional support, or the number of people on the list for supported housing or for daycare. All of those changes have been mapped out in the first 4 pages of this report, and it's really, really interesting. We had a presentation, I can't recall, a couple of months ago now, about the growth changes in our community, particularly looking toward development charges review and other things, and any number of reasons why having a population growth study was going to be helpful for us at the county and at Algonquin Islands and the other lower tiers. And it was really valuable information. And I find this report to offer a completely different filter onto the same kinds of questions that were asked by the previous report. So 2 of them together offer a really rich snapshot, and I thought council would appreciate seeing what those changes are.
Any questions or comments on that? I would say, just in case members of council don't know, that that with respect to housing, social services, all aspects of the county's relationship with the city of Kawartha Lakes are represented by Deputy Mayor Dayu, by Mayor Carter, and by Deputy Mayor Cisrael. So we're definitely well represented at the city. So did we have a resolution to receive that, or it's just for, okay, sounds good. So there's nothing under general business. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, did anybody wish to comment on any of the correspondence? I would say that there's been a lot of rumbling, and I see a number of pieces of correspondence, in a lot of different areas with respect to the strong mayor's powers, that there are a number of municipalities who are refusing to implement those strong mayor powers, and writing to the province to let them know that they're not pleased about that. There's actually been some correspondence asking the province to reverse those decisions, which I find very interesting. And as I'm sure you're all aware now, both mayors Fury and Carter have been given the strong mayor's powers. And I had initially thought that that was based on the tax base of a municipality, but interestingly enough, it's based on the number of members on a council. 7 members or more, or 6 members or more. I'm not sure why they use the number 6, but because it should be an uneven number. But so because Minden and Dysart both have 7 members on their council, that's the rationale there. We have, I suspect that, from conversations that we've had at county council so far, that there will be some instances with respect particularly to planning, that those 2 mayors will probably utilize their powers. But I think we've got a ways to go for members of council to understand the implications of that and what their impact is on, I'm sure that because the strong mayors have the ability to hire and fire their CAOs and department heads, there's a number of folks that are insecure and wondering, what the impact is going to be on them. What I find I find it completely undemocratic, period. And for folks like, for instance, if I had been given strong mayor powers, to me, that erodes the CAO's powers and her responsibility and role with respect to staff. And I just don't think that's right, nor do I think it's right that she or any CAO would be put in a position of feeling like their position is not secure. And that's just one of the things I have a problem with. But anyway, so that I'm sure we'll hear more about that. But having said that, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the correspondence listing? Councillor Barry, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Councillor Barry, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that council receives the May 1st, 2025 correspondence listing for information.
All in favor? That's carried. We have no closed session today. So could I have a mover and a seconder to receive and approve the bylaws? Councillors Richards and Barry.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved the following bylaws be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. 2025-50 to stop up, close, and convey part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 21, concession 11, geographic township of Sherburne for Parg. 2025-51 to stop up, close, and convey part of lot 10, concession 4, designated as road allowance on plan attached to patent H20184, and part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 10, concession 4, geographic township of Livingstone for Fletcher. 2025-52 to enter into a fire safety grant transfer payment agreement, and 2025-53 to adopt the estimates and expenditures and revenues for the year 2025.
All in favor? That's carried. Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve or adopt the confirmatory bylaw? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-54 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its May 1st, 2025 regular meeting be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with a corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally, a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved the meeting is hereby adjourned at 9:58 a.m.
All in favor? That's carried.